from Samuel 2nd. We're going to read from Samuel 2nd, chapter 21. Samuel 2nd, chapter 21, and verse 1. During the reign of David, there was a famine for 3 successive years. So David sought the face of the Lord. The Lord said, "It is on account of Saul and his blood-stained house. It is because he put the Gibeonites to death." The king summoned the Gibeonites and spoke to them. Now the Gibeonites were not a part of Israel, but were survivors of the Amorites. The Israelites had sworn to spare them, but Saul in his zeal for Israel and Judah had tried to annihilate them. David asked the Gibeonites, "What shall I do for you? How shall I make amends so that you will bless the Lord's inheritance?" The Gibeonites answered him, "We have no right to demand silver or gold from Saul or his family, nor do we have the right to put anyone in Israel to death." "What do you want me to do for you?" David asked. They answered the king, "As for the man who destroyed us and plotted against us, so that we have been decimated, and have no place anywhere in Israel, let 7 of his male descendants be given to us to be killed and exposed before the Lord at Gibeah of Saul, the Lord's chosen one." So the king said, "I will give them to you." The king spared Mephibosheth, son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, because of the oath before the Lord between David and Jonathan, son of Saul. But the king took Armoni and Mephibosheth, the 2 sons of Aias, daughter Rizpah, whom she had borne to Saul, together with the 5 sons of Saul's daughter Merab, whom she had borne to Adriel, son of Barzillai the Meholathite. He handed them over to the Gibeonites, who killed and exposed them on a hill before the Lord. All 7 of them fell together. They were put to death during the first days of the harvest, just as the barley harvest was beginning. Rizpah, daughter of Aiah, took sackcloth and spread it out for herself on a rock from the beginning of the harvest till the rain poured down from the heavens on the bodies. She did not let the birds of the air touch them by day or the wild animals by night. When David was told that Ahaz's daughter Rizpah, Saul's concubine, had done, he went and took the bones of Saul and his son Jonathan from the citizens of Jabesh Gilead, as they had taken them secretly from the public square of Beth-san, where the Philistines had hanged them after they struck Saul down on Gilboa. David brought the bones of Saul and his son Jonathan from there, and the bones of those who had been killed and exposed were gathered up. They buried the bones of Saul and his son Jonathan in the tomb of Saul's father Kish at Zillah in Benjamin, and did everything the king commanded. After that, God answered the prayer in behalf of the land. Amen. Now the king of the Israelites, David, a man according to the heart of God, a holy person of God. And the result of that was that the blessing of God was on Israel. And the blessing of God and the instructions of God were given to the Israelites at day and night. And now you see, from our work, and to be more precise, from our doings and our words and the things that we want to achieve in our lives, our pathway is dependent on, or whether that is good or bad. From our words, from our works, or from what we want, what we are asking for. It is very important indeed, because our words are confirming the Word of God or are standing against it. Our works either is confirming the presence and the power of the Spirit or are standing against it. And our will is confirming the love of God in our lives, if it is according to the Word of God to the very detail. Now, David had these characteristics, and he had the blessing of God on him, and not only on him, but on his family as well, and not only on his family, but on his work too, and not only on his work, but upon every single individual that he was reigning upon. But all of a sudden, there was a famine for 1 year. And now he's waiting. But now we're going through the second year. Still, there was famine and hunger. And he's still waiting. The third year, same happening, same thing. Famine and hunger. Even more than that. Imagine now 3 years consecutively with famine. You can imagine that the third one was worse than the one previously, the year before that. Now he starts to understand that there's something off. Something is happening. And he knows that God, who is blessing us, is all of a sudden taken away the blessing of God. And if God is taking his blessing away from his life, then there's a reason for it. And because of that knowledge that he had, and because of the truth that he knew, David, a man according to the heart of God, is now going to God, not to ask for a favor so that he may pour down rain, so that the issues that they are having will be resolved, but because it has nothing to do with the grace of God, it has nothing to do with the mercy of God, but rather this instance he needs to ask from God to reveal the reason behind this famine. And this is the critical point that we need to take care of in our lives and in our personal relationship with God and in our life in this world. We need to understand and we need to know the reason for the things that are happening, because if we do know the reason behind the things that are happening in our lives, then we can ask for the solution from God to be given to us, or the edification or the multiplication of our blessings in our lives. And that is why he goes, as a wise person that he was, and a faithful one, a holy person of God, he goes to God therefore, and he prays. He's not asking for help, but he's asking for revelation, an explanation. Why are these things happening to me, God? Because if I learn why that is the case, why the famine is happening in our lives, then I can concern and see what I need to do to fix it. And who is going to tell me that? Is it my heart? Is it my mind? I'll be failing if that is the case. Our God, my God, then I'll be successful if that is the case. But I want to stay and remain in this. We are not supposed to draw near to God with petitions if we want to find grace and mercy in our lives from God. If we want that thing to happen in our life, if we want the mercy of God in our life, we are going forward with questions. And there's a great difference. We are drawing near with questions. Lord, what are you wanting from me to do? When? What is the reason why I'm not seeing the blessing of yours in my life? What am I supposed to do? We are supposed to draw near to God so that God may be pleased with our pathway and through questions. We need to understand the reason why, the when and how. And in that occasion, through the wisdom that God has given him, he's drawing near to God and he says, Lord, why are we going through this famine for these 3 years, successive years? And the Lord replies, and this is the reason for all the things in our lives. Because if God does not allow something in our life, it won't happen. The reason for all the things that are happening in your life, bad or good, is God. And that is why He's the only one who can help us out and confirm to us the reason why. And without any delay, God is replying, and He says, it is on account of Saul and his blood-stained house. It is because he put the Gibeonites to death. Even though that they had the law, and he had the law from the people of Israel, and the oath that the people of Israel sworn to not touch them, but he fooled them, and he was successful, Saul, that is. And the reason is because they didn't ask the Lord. He judged according to the image, because they put on clothes that they were dirty, and they said that they were coming from far away. And the king of Israel said, come and let us accept your peace treaty. And the Israelite sworn to themselves that they will keep them alive, and that they will have them with them. And the truth was revealed right after that. And that was the reason why they were bound to not touch the Gibeonites. But they were successfully put in the work and were put in the society of the Israelites. But however, they sworn to not touch them. And the second message now is that Saul decided, because of his zeal for the people of Israel and Judah, he decided to kill them all. And the question now is, what is zeal? Zeal, with a few words, is the interest of love for people, for others. Of course, it could also mean an interest of hatred, but we are talking about the proper zeal of God. And of course, it is an interest of love towards people of God. And the love towards God and towards the work of God, or rather towards people and fame. Therefore, there's a zeal that is for blessing, but there's also a zeal that would lead to damnation. Because Saul had zeal towards the people of Israel and Judah, and he killed because of it the Gibeonites. And he tried. He loved the Israelites and the people of Judah. He wanted to win over them. He wanted all of them to be together and reign, and for his people to be happy. But he didn't ask God. And now the time has come for God to bring down the famine. And because of these actions of Saul, and because he put to death the Gibeonites, that is the reason why you are now 3 years into famine. And the next question is, what are we doing now? What are we supposed to do from that moment on, so that we may rectify the things that happened? Because indeed the issues in our life happened, and I see the damnation in our life and in our household life and in our church. What are we supposed to do now? And of course, we are now in the Old Testament, and this is for edification as well. And of course, the things that God is going to confirm have nothing to do with the New Testament. No one would ever ask for people to be put to death in the New Testament. But according to the law, the blood of Christ is able to clean us from every sin. That is in the New Testament, and we can receive forgiveness. because of the blood of Christ is cleaning us. But the blood of Abel is asking for redemption, and that is a great difference in the New Testament and the Old Testament, because we have the blood of Christ, and that is cleansing us. But in the Old Testament we have the blood of Abel, and is asking for redemption. But the blood of Christ is providing forgiveness. And because of that, and with that logic in mind, and because we understand that we are in the Old Testament, he said, find. The Gibeonites said to David, because David wanted to rectify things, and so that the Gibeonites can again pray for the people of Israel and ask for the blessing of the people of Israel, because it was important for them to do, and to forgive the people of Israel for the great and blood-stained house of Saul. They said that we want to receive the seven descendants of Saul, so that we may hang them, and for that to end, to get a closure. And David said, I will do that for you. And he took Ammoni and Mephibosheth, the two sons of Isaiah's daughter Rizpah, whom she born to Saul, together with the 5 sons of Saul's daughter Merab, whom she born to Adriel son of Barzillai and Meholithite, and gave them to the Gibeonites, and they killed them. And someone could say that this is now it. It's done. But it's not the end of the story, unfortunately, or fortunately for us. There's a continuation in there. And we see further down that Rizpah, in verse 10, daughter of Aiah, took sackcloth and spread it out for herself on a rock, from the beginning of the harvest till the rain poured down from the heavens on the bodies. And she did not let the birds of the air touch them by day, or the wild animals by night. Something happened to her. Something that was out of the ordinary. Something that she couldn't bear. The whole message today is about forgiveness. And she couldn't forgive that, Rizpah. And David now has to find another solution, because there will not be the blessing of God coming down unless he finds a solution. If you don't find a solution to all the issues, you won't find the grace of God in your life. And now he's thinking to himself, and he thinks that, and he understands that he needs to do something. What haven't we done properly? What were we supposed to do as people of Israel, and I as a king of God, of Israel, and didn't do? And he remembered Saul and Jonathan. And he remembered the people of Jabez Gilead stole the bones of Saul and Jonathan's after the Philistines hanged them at the town of Gilboa. And he understood this, he remembered it. And he decided to do that last action that would bring the blessing of God. And that had multiple reasons. He wanted to please the people of Israel, but also to win over the heart of Rizpah. Because there's not going to be blessing in your life if you are not able to win over the forgiveness of people. Someone that has something against you, you won't see the blessing of God in your life. And isn't that amazing? Isn't that terrifying? Surely you need to win the forgiveness of your brother. If you don't, you won't succeed. No matter what you do, sacrifices, offerings, staying up and praying all night, no matter what you do, if you haven't received the forgiveness of one person, and you are not taking care to do what you ought to do so that he might forgive you, then you will never see blessing in your life. You are going to go from issue to issue, from problem to problem, from sorrow to sorrow. And that would be the case, so that maybe you will come to your senses and you will return and you will understand and you will act. And it is very important, my dear brethren, that message. Now imagine that this is not written anywhere else. It's only written in Samuel 2, in that very chapter. But it's so important. But it doesn't matter how many times it is written in the Bible, how many times the Spirit is explaining these things to us. The most important thing is, if it is written, and if it is written, then you need to do it. You are bound to do it. You are bound to act accordingly to it. And we are now talking about David. We're talking about a person that was according to the heart of God. And he was doing according to the will of God and the commandments of God. And he was not able to find the solution. He asked God. God explained. He asked the Gibeonites. He obeyed to them, but there was no forgiveness. And they said to him, "Go and see Rizpah." For 6 months almost, she's by herself, to the very in utter weakness and humbling and humility, because she thinks that you did something that was not right, because you killed her sons. Was that wrong? Rizpah thought that it was, even though that we know that is from God, and God told David to do it. The point is, God said it, David did it, but what is the case with Rizpah now? What is he supposed to do for the heart of the person that has sorrow in his heart and has sorrow in his life? And he feels that his case was misjudged. It doesn't matter whether or not it was right or wrong. The point is that you are bound. And you have to set yourself free. David is bound, and he needs to set himself free. And because of David, the people of Israel are bound as well, and they need to be free. And anything that is bound in heaven, in earth, are also bound in heavens. And someone has to go ahead and unbound these things, and unbound the issues. Can you understand how important the message is today? I am bound, and I'm not able to realize it yet. And I'm asking God, and I'm not rather asking God. I'm not able to see. As people see, I'm not able to see a proper day. I'm struggling, but I'm not seeing anything to the thing that I need to do. I'm trying, but I find no reply. Maybe I am bound, and I'm not able to understand it yet. Maybe there's someone that is thinking, I'm not judging whether that's right or not. He thinks that I done something against him that was not right, and because of it, God is not able to set me free. And they said to him, "Go and find Rizpah." And he understood that I brought her in that situation, and that there's something that I need to do. And he remembered what he needed to do and didn't do. And he took the bodies of Jonathan and Saul, and as he needed to, they were now in the proper tomb that they were supposed to be, and everything was fixed after that. The issue was fixed. Do you understand what I'm talking about. His issue was resolved. His bondages were undone. For 3 years, he asked God, and he did what God told him to, but he was not done. The result was my doctrine and your doctrine. You need to search and you need to find, firstly from God. Pray, Lord, what am I supposed to do? What is left for me to do? What is the thing that you need to intervene to? And if you fix that now on earth, I will be successful and I will be set free in heavens. Maybe I'm in bondage and I'm not able to, I didn't realize it yet. It's very important, isn't it? To a personal detail and that will have a result in a household. And that will be the case for our lives. In a household, in a church, maybe you are bound from something and you cannot find a solution in your issues. Maybe a solution cannot be found in your relationship, and it will never be. Because it's not the point for God to set you free, which is the point eventually, but the point is for God to set you free eventually. And that's the critical point. That's the thing that you need to take care of. And God set him free. And the blessing of God came back again. And the blessing of God came back again to Israel. And the grace of God came back to the people of Israel. And now David is now set free. He's moving forward with his life. And of course he's going to make mistakes. But into every mistake, there's a way of repentance and fixing things. And that depends upon God. But also, it's depending upon the way that you are drawing near to God. Are you doing so with the certainty that you've made everything well and you've done everything right? That is a mistake. And this is what Job actually did. All the things were done properly in my life. That's what Job thought. And the result, God allowed such a trial that he was never able to understand or fathom that he would go through, so that he may reach the depths of his heart and understand the issues that he had. I mean.